All right, so today we're going deep on this one, folks. We're diving into the life of Lee Kuan Yew.
A pretty towering figure.
Oh yeah, the founding father of modern Singapore.
Definitely.
And we're going to be pulling all of that from his memoir.
The Singapore story.
That's right. And I'm really excited to see what kind of leadership lessons we can pull out of this.
I think there'll be a lot.
Because, sometimes history can feel a little bit like a textbook thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It happened way back when, not relevant to us.
Yeah.
But I think there's so much we can learn from figures like Lee Kuan Yew.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to facing challenges and leading when there's uncertainty.
Right. I mean, what strikes me about Lee Kuan Yew's life is how much of it seemed to prepare him for the task of leading Singapore. It's almost like each challenge, each twist of fate, equipped him with a new skill or a new insight that he would later draw on as a leader.
Yeah, and maybe that's the first lesson right there.
Cool.
So let's start at the beginning. Family history, Hakka roots, known for their resilience, and a grandfather so Anglophilic that he named his grandson Harry. Can you imagine having Harry on your official documents in colonial Singapore?
It's a fascinating detail.
Right.
And it speaks volumes about the cultural cross-currents at play.
Totally.
And it's not just his name.
Yeah.
Lee Kuan Yew's early struggles with Mandarin despite being fluent in English, and Baba Malay highlight the complex linguistic tapestry he had to navigate. Imagine the challenge of trying to connect with such a diverse population.
I mean, talk about a communications challenge.
Right.
Yeah, it makes you think about how important it is to be able to bridge different cultures and different languages if you really want to lead effectively.
For sure.
But then you've got World War II. I mean, talk about a test of adaptability.
Yeah.
He sees the British surrender to the Japanese firsthand, and he describes his admiration for the stoicism of the Gurkha soldiers. What do you think he found so admirable about them, and how might that have influenced his own approach to leadership?
I think he was drawn to their discipline, their unwavering sense of duty, even in the face of defeat.
Yeah.
And these were qualities that he would come to value immensely as a leader himself.
Especially in those crazy years after the war.
Absolutely.
So much uncertainty.
Yeah. What stands out to you about his response to those years of Japanese occupation?
His resourcefulness.
Yeah.
Wow. He learns Japanese, starts making glue to sell, and even navigates the black market.
Yeah.
And it's all just to survive.
Right. It's like he refused to be a passive victim of circumstance.
Exactly.
And this resourcefulness, this determination to carve out a path, even in the most oppressive conditions, speaks to his character. It really defines his leadership style later on.
So then he goes off to Cambridge, studies law. What was it like for him to be in Britain after experiencing the harsh realities of war and occupation? How do you think that shaped him?
It was a period of immense intellectual and political growth for him. He excelled academically, but even more importantly, I think he began to formulate his own ideas about governance and the kind of society he wanted to build.
Yeah. And his early forays into political campaigning during the 1950 UK general election really foreshadowed his future career path. It's fascinating to see those early seeds being planted.
It's like he's getting ready, absorbing all this knowledge, ready to apply it back home.
And then he returns to Singapore.
Yep. Newly married.
To Kwa Geok Chew. And that was a pivotal event in his personal life.
For sure.
She became his confidant, his advisor, a pillar of support.
Throughout his whole career.
His whole career.
Yeah.
But their return to Singapore marked a new chapter, one filled with both opportunities and immense challenges.
He jumps right in.
He does.
His early legal career. There's this great anecdote. He successfully defends 2 murder suspects using his cross-examination skills to really expose the flaws in the prosecution's case.
Right.
It seems like his legal training just sharpened his ability to think strategically and anticipate the next move.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
His strategic thinking became even more crucial as he navigated the complex world of trade unionism and his encounters with communist organizers.
These experiences gave him that firsthand insight into the political forces at play in Singapore and the challenges he would face in building a nation.
It's real-world experience.
Oh, yeah, a crash course in the real politic of Singapore.
And in the middle of all of this, he's forming the People's Action Party, the PAP,
right,
and already facing opposition. I mean, come on.
Well, the formation of the PAP was a bold move. It was a declaration that he was stepping onto the political stage with a vision for a new Singapore.
Ah.
But the path to achieving that vision was definitely fraught with obstacles.
So 1955 rolls around.
Yep.
This young, ambitious Lee Kuan Yew leading the PAP into the election.
Right.
And things don't exactly go smoothly.
No, not really. I mean, the 1955 election was a lesson in the realities of grassroots politics.
Yeah.
Lee Kuan Yew and the PAP, they face a lack of support,
Uh-oh.
limited resources, and they even had to rely on personal networks just to get voters to the polls.
Wow.
It was very different back then.
I can only imagine the grit,
Yeah.
the determination it took
Mm-hmm.
to overcome all of that.
Absolutely.
But then he forms a united front with the communists. That seems so risky, especially given how he felt about communism later on.
Yeah, it was a calculated risk.
Right.
Pragmatic one born out of necessity. Lee Kuan Yew knew the communists had a lot of influence
Oh, yeah.
among labor unions and student groups, and he knew if he wanted to achieve independence, he had to navigate these waters.
It makes you wonder about the compromises leaders have to make.
Mm.
When do you compromise and when do you stand firm?
It's a tough question.
It's a really delicate balance.
Absolutely. And for Lee Kuan Yew, this was always being tested.
Hmm.
The Hockley bus riots and David Marshall's resignation,
Right.
they were stark reminders of how volatile the political landscape was
Yeah.
and the immense challenges of leading a nation that wanted independence.
It feels like a turning point.
Mm.
He's seeing firsthand that idealism only gets you so far when you're up against such pressure.
Right.
So how did this experience change his approach? Because he does lead the PIP to victory in 1959.
Well, I think it instilled in him a deep sense of pragmatism.
Okay.
He realized that to lead Singapore, he had to balance his ideals with the reality on the ground.
Yeah.
And his victory speech after the 1959 election is so revealing.
Really?
He didn't talk about triumph. Instead, he talked about unemployment, communist agitation,
Oh, wow.
and the big one, achieving true independence through a merger with Malaya.
It's like he's saying, we won this battle, but the war isn't over.
Exactly.
And that merger with Malaya
Yeah.
seems like the ultimate gamble.
The merger was a strategic masterstroke, but it was fraught with complexities.
Right.
Lee Kuan Yew had to convince Tunku Abdul Rahman, the leader of Malaya, that including Singapore would be beneficial.
Yeah.
He had to negotiate citizenship rights for Singaporeans and calm fears about communist influence.
What a balancing act.
It was. It took deep understanding and a willingness to compromise without losing sight of his vision.
And then there's the referendum. A pretty bold move in such a tense environment.
Well, the referendum showed his faith in democratic processes. Even as he was navigating this incredibly complex and potentially volatile situation,
Yeah.
he knew the merger wouldn't succeed without the support of the people.
It's a huge lesson about getting the public on board.
Absolutely.
Making sure everyone's on the same page when you're making such huge decisions.
Right.
But even after the merger, things weren't smooth sailing. The tension with UMNO leaders in Malaysia kept growing.
It did.
And then ultimately Singapore separated in 1965.
That separation was traumatic for Lee Kuan Yew.
Yeah.
It represented the shattering of a dream.
A dream he fought so hard for.
Exactly. But he showed incredible resilience.
He didn't give up.
Nope. Instead of despair, he rallied his people and charted a new course.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's leadership.
Under pressure
He took a terrible situation and turned it into an opportunity.
to redefine Singapore's future.
He believed in Singapore even when others doubted.
Wow.
He inspired his people to embrace the
To
challenges.
stand on their own 2 feet.
Exactly. It speaks to his vision, his determination, and his ability to bring people together.
So we've seen him navigate war, political turmoil, even the heartbreak of separation.
It's quite a story.
What can we learn from him? Not just about leading a nation, but about facing our own challenges.
That's a great question. I think one of the most valuable takeaways is the importance of resilience.
Mm-hmm.
He faced so many setbacks.
Moments where it would have been easy to just quit.
Yeah, but he never did. He adapted, he learned, he kept moving.
It's like he had this internal compass
Yeah.
that always pointed him towards his goal.
And I think that's something we can all learn,
Absolutely.
whether we're facing career challenges or just navigating daily life.
We need that bounce back ability.
We do. But resilience isn't enough.
Right.
Lee Kuan Yew was also a master strategist.
Oh yeah, always thinking ahead.
Always. So how can we be more strategic in our own lives? Our careers, our relationships, our goals. Strategic thinking is like having that mental roadmap. It's all about thinking ahead, looking out for those challenges, but always keeping your eye on the prize and knowing how to get there even when you have to take a detour. Lee Kuan Yew was always thinking 10 steps ahead, weighing his options and never afraid to switch things up.
He was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. But he didn't do it alone, right?
No.
He was constantly talking to people from all walks of life. Political rivals, regular folks. That seems super important for any leader.
Absolutely. Lee Kuan Yew knew that leadership wasn't about barking orders from some ivory tower. It was about really getting to know people, understanding their worries, their dreams, and finding common ground. And that takes a willingness to listen and see things from other people's shoes.
It's about understanding that everyone brings something to the table,
Mm.
even the people you don't agree with. And that brings us to another one of Lee Kuan Yew's strengths: communication. I mean, the guy was fluent in multiple languages, and he used that to connect with people in a way that few leaders can.
He had a way of communicating that was both strategic and personal. He could be tough as nails when he needed to be, but also warm and engaging. He'd crack a joke, tell a story. He knew how to use words to inspire people.
It wasn't just about getting information across, it was about connecting on a deeper level. And that's something we can all try to do better, whether we're giving a big presentation at work or just chatting with a friend.
I think that's a huge lesson from Lee Kuan Yew's story. There's something in there for everyone.
It's about those challenges, learning from the missteps, and always trying to do better.
Right. And recognizing that leadership isn't about having a fancy title. It's about stepping up, making a difference, and inspiring others to do the same.
His life really shows the power of resilience, strategic thinking, putting yourself in other people's shoes, and just communicating effectively.
And those are things that apply no matter who you are or what you do. They're essential for navigating life's ups and downs, for building strong relationships, and for leaving the world a little bit better than you found it.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Lee Kuan Yew's incredible journey, I'm feeling really inspired. But it also makes you think, how can we take what we've learned and actually use it? How can we be more resilient? How can we think more strategically? How can we be more understanding?
It all starts with being more aware, making a conscious effort to develop those qualities. It's about asking yourself, how can I be more flexible when things change? How can I be smarter about my goals? How can I really get where those around me are coming from?
It's about recognizing those aha moments and using them to grow as a person.
Exactly. And Lee Kuan Yew's story reminds us that leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about progress. It's about never stopping learning, never stopping growing, and never stopping trying to make a positive impact on the world.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into Lee Kuan Yew's Singapore story. We hope you walked away with some new ideas, something to chew on, and maybe even a little bit more purpose. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.